Chapter 8. Kate and Nick returned to the house after having a really fun adventure for one day. They put the emerald necklace in a case where it would be safe and not get shattered. "Kate, do you want to ride our bikes?" thought Nick, having very few plans left for the day. "Okay, it is really rare for just the two of us to be riding, or for that matter to ride at all. Usually we take the horses," responded Kate. Typically, if the family rode their bikes, it would be all of them, or Kate, Tahra, and Nick. Being together crossed the young child's mind. Kate hated the thought of Tahra not being there, but she only got to be with just Nick once in a rainbow moon. She enjoyed spending time alone with her dear father. It was always a nice time, and they would get to share. It was obvious she was her daddy's little girl, even though she cherished both of her parents. Tahra managed not to pick a favorite parent, but hated some days it seemed they would choose her over Kate. Worse yet, it was evident to Kate, but she wasn't bothered by it most of the time. Back at the sea of paper, Tahra opened the door to her shelter. A bright, beautiful rainbow stretched across the partly clear sky. The bright glow allowed sunshine to shine on Tahra and made her smile. It reminded her of a time when she was on the beach with her family, and out of nowhere it began to downpour. While her family remained calm under their umbrella, others were freaking out. They were running up the beach to the boardwalk and to the shops to take cover. As the rain slowed, a pod of dolphins went swimming by. Beth took a picture of her and Kate with the dolphins leaping in the background. Then the sun came out, and Kate and Tahra saw their first ever double rainbow. By luck, the picture Beth took also had the double rainbow in it, although it was faint. Grinning, Tahra brought her mind back to the present. She stepped out of her shelter, figuring she'd take a walk in the light drizzle for a little while. Tahra always loved the way the air smelled after a hard rain. It always was so fresh and new. Usually that would be how she would get some of her greatest inspirations for new music, so she thought it could be a way for her mind to clear and find a way back home. On the long road of traveling, Beth started to regain her speed at 4 o'clock as she passed a small accident. She was wishing now she would run into no more traffic jams today, but she figured that was highly unlikely, the way her luck was going today. She knew she had definitely hit rush hour in only a little while. She was still listening to the Irish soundtrack and was loving each song, although some of them were strange. It helped, though, to keep her mood lifted and off of the terrible plaguing thoughts that threatened her every second. Back in the Smoky Mountains, Kate was still riding around on her bike. "Dad, I want to try it without my training wheels," proposed Kate with confidence that she was ready to learn. "Okay," Nick responded, shocked, but sure Kate was ready. Nick walked into the brick-red garage and flicked on the lights. He opened up a worn-out toolbox and grabbed the wrench before returning to the outside. "I'm back. Now let's take those training wheels off. Remember, Kate, you might fall a few times. Just tell me if you want your training wheels back on." "I know, but I probably won't need them again," she claimed, determined to get it on her first try. Nick held her red bike still when she climbed on and put her feet down. Her dad was still holding the bike when Kate said, "I want to try it on my own first." "Okay," replied Nick, letting go of the bike. Kate took off like a rocket. She did it on her first try, and she wasn't even a little wobbly. Perhaps it was because she was so close to being ready before. It also helped she had a strong determination like her mother, and with the right amount of confidence, anything can be possible, including finding Tahra. After riding around for a little while in the driveway, she stopped. "Kate, you bet me at golf and in the arcade, but I never expected you not to fall on your first try riding your bike without training wheels," claimed Nick, stunned but happily. "Well, I guess that shows I really am a pro at everything," Kate stated proudly and with a little sarcasm. Nick smiled and chuckled. "I guess you are good at almost everything." Kate's eyes were glowing with pride. "Let's ride our bikes too and around the town for a little while," suggested her dad. "Okay," agreed Kate, glad to know she could get more practice without training wheels. Meanwhile, at the sea of paper, Tahra was nearing the apple trees and decided to stop to pick a few. By then, the rain had terminated, but the sky was still very dark. Tahra figured the rain would come down again. She couldn't be sure when or how hard, but she was almost certain it would rain again today. The precipitation had added humidity to the air, so now it was hot out. Tahra figured that would mean the night would not be too chilly either. The last few nights had been a little cold, and Tahra had nothing but her stick shelter and hoodie to keep her warm. Some nights were colder than others, and so she curled into a tiny ball to try to keep warm. At the same time, for Beth, things were finally calming down, including her emotions. Beth entered a town in West Virginia as the time showed 4:45. She decided to find a place to eat. She pulled up to a casual-looking restaurant, but everyone knows it's what's inside that truly counts. With her sadness weighing on her, she staggered inside. "Oh, goodness, you look exhausted," concluded a waitress coming over. Beth nodded. "Where are you from, as many people come from all over to dine here?" "Tennessee," replied Beth, with tiredness in her voice from driving so many long hours. "Well, since you are so tired, you get to be seated upstairs," the waitress replied politely. Every day they would choose certain people to be seated upstairs, unless someone reserved to sit upstairs, specifically the one room, which they call the special room, was rarely ever filled. Upstairs was lit by candlelight, with candles upon each table, and the tables were covered in a silky white cloth. The chairs were red cushioned velvet, and a soft classical music was playing. It looked more like a castle dining room than a casual restaurant. "Amazing, right?" filled in the waitress. "Yeah, it is incredible," responded Beth, breathless, gazing around. "It is, but that isn't all. Julie, would you help our guests get settled in?" the waitress asked with a wink. "It would be my honor," answered Julie with her natural British accent. Julie was wearing a fancy dress and gloves, which made her look like she could almost be a princess or the Queen of England. Beth grinned to herself as a book idea struck her. She thought it would be interesting to write a tale about the royal of England that left her home for some reason and decided to work in a restaurant. The entire diner was inspirational, and Beth took mental notes to later write about. Julie took Beth back into a hidden room filled with racks of clothing. She grabbed a light purple dress, mixed with yellow, and a yellow cape coming out of the mid-back, off of the one rack. "Here, put this dress on," instructed Julie, giving Beth the dress. Then Julie closed the door before Beth could ask why. A minute later, Beth came out in the dress, although she didn't know why, and her face spoke a million words of confusion. Julie handed Beth a pair of white gloves and 1-inch heels. Julie put a crystal necklace on Beth, finishing the outfit. Julie motioned for Beth to follow her. Julie pulled out a chair, took a step back, and motioned for Beth to sit down in the bow. "The clothing is yours to keep," explained Julie. "Thank you very much," responded Beth, although she had no idea why they were doing this. Beth knew there had to be more reason than simply being kind, although she wasn't sure what that would be. Then Julie handed her a menu, leaving no time for her to question. While this was taking place, Nick was a little ahead of Kate on his bike, about 5 feet. He wasn't trying to race her, or be in front really, but he was simply leading her around. He turned down an alley, then he stopped and got off. Nick locked the bikes up to a pole using a chain and a standard key lock. "Where are we at?" asked Kate, not recognizing the place. Nick said nothing but opened a door. Kate walked in, followed by her father. "When I was a kid, this was my favorite toy store. It also is the least popular in town, but yet I think it is the best. My father is friends with the owner. Now the owner's son runs it. You know, I'm not from Glowing Springs, but my dad and the original owner had gone to school together. They stayed in touch, and so I got to come here every now and then. Anyway, much of their products here they make themselves, but not all of it. Kate, look around, and I will get you one thing you want, while I speak with the owner and see if he has any ideas where Tahra could be," explained Nick. "Thanks, Dad. One question. If this is such a little-known place, how will the owner know anything about Tahra?" replied Kate. "You're welcome. Think of it as a reward for doing so while riding your bike without training wheels. The current owner's father, the one my father knows, used to be a part-time detective. He taught his son some of his skill, so I'm hoping he'll be able to suggest a way to look for Tahra that we haven't yet," Nick explained. She grinned, glad to know there was still hope in finding her sister. Back in West Virginia, Julie came out with a tray of food and walked over to Beth's table. All the plates were very fancy, like everything else. They were white with a flower design in the middle, adding color to the porcelain. If you sat downstairs, you would never imagine what was upstairs. Those upstairs find it hard to believe the casual restaurant and the fancy one are one and the same, commented Julie, as though reading Beth's mind. Beth nodded as her response, not knowing what else to say. "May I ask why you decided to give me this special treatment?" sought Beth, wondering why and hoping to get a straight answer other than kindness. "Yes, of course. You see, once a month we choose one person or a small group to be treated as our special guest in the afternoon. You appeared tired and a tiny bit sad, so we figured you could use something to cheer you up. It also happened to be the week we choose our special guest, too. The founder of the restaurant also enjoys sewing in her free time, but her designs were not that trendy. So she thought making an upstairs fancier and giving special treatment to certain guests would also do a good opportunity to show off her designs by giving them away. It has helped too, and more have been interested in her designs, Julie explained cheerfully. Well, thank you very much. It definitely worked. I feel better now. I can't thank you enough. You are very welcome. I'm glad our service has made you smile. Beth smiled, hoping things back home were going just as well. Back in Glowing Springs, Kate finished finding what she wanted. I'm ready, Dad, she declared, walking over to Nick. All right, responded Nick, turning to face his youngest daughter. I found the perfect present for Tahra, the child explained. That's good. It normally is hard to get her a present with her around. You normally have to tell me what to get her, and I get it after work, stated Nick, relieved as he recalled many late-night shopping trips that he had to sneak in after work. He was glad in the midst of Tahra not being here and all his sadness that he could find one tiny good thing. Yeah, that does make it hard, agreed Kate. Nick paid for the item, and they departed to the outside. As he was unlocking the bikes, Kate asked, Did the owner have any suggestions? Nick sighed and replied, Not really, other than what we already tried. He said we needed to examine the exact place she was last seen and see if she left any hints about disappearing, but we already did that. Kate nodded, and the two of them hopped on their bikes and took off, with Nick once again in the lead. As Nick had left that place, Beth finished eating and was heading out the door. As soon as Beth walked down the stairs, she felt like she entered another world, or at least another restaurant. Beth was back on the road at exactly 5:35 and was full of happiness. Now maybe the sun would turn her way for once in the whole day. She turned on her Irish music and let it play, representing her new mood. She knew she had to stay strong no matter what it would take, and she would have to keep fighting for this rare blissful moments that were lucky to sneak into her day. To further help keep her mind distracted from the terrible thoughts and memories, she focused on the book idea she had formed earlier while eating dinner. Now at the Sia paper, Tahra was on her way back to her shelter when it started to drizzle. Tahra quickened her pace, but not too fast because she could slip from the wet leaves and rocks. She only hoped she didn't get caught in a downpour. It would not feel good right now and cool her off a bit, but she figured she wouldn't be dry by nightfall and would be cold. She made it back to her shelter without getting soaking wet. She sat there with the door open, watching the rain fall gently. On rainy days, Kate and Tahra would often play dress-up and form some type of crazy fun play. Once they were dressed up, they would play as that character. Sometimes they built forts that would be a castle or a police station or whatever they wanted it to be. Tahra let her mind wander back to a time when she and Kate made Beth really mad, and making Beth mad is very hard. Another rainy day, Tahra. Let's play, stated Kate, full of energy, wanting to play. Okay, responded Tahra cheerfully, and the two of them ran off to the dress-up bin. Tahra, you dress up as a singer. I will be an evil princess in disguise that ruins your show because I want the spotlight, instructed Kate. Sounds fun, let's do it. Once they were in their costumes, Tahra sang. Boo, your singing be terrible, the world-famous singer Deborah Miller kept singing, ignoring Princess McKenna. Deborah Miller is Tahra's favorite singer, an inspiration of all time, so she always chose to play as her. Deborah Miller, you are the worst! Then Princess McKenna started throwing tomatoes, which was really pillows. Deborah Miller stopped singing and scanned the audience to see who was causing a scene. Deborah Miller took a close look and realized it was the evil Princess McKenna. She was always trying to take her spotlight. McKenna, what a surprise to see you here. I'm surprised you singing when you were really bad at it. From this day, I forbid you, Deborah Miller, from singing or performing ever again. You can't stop me from what I love. I most certainly can. First you have to catch me. Deborah Miller jumped off of the stage, which was the couch. Then she ran out of the theater, the living room. Princess McKenna chased her and kept on throwing tomatoes. One pillow flew past Tahra. Beth was carrying a wash basket full of laundry at the time. The pillow hit her, causing her to lose her balance and spill the basket all over the floor. Tahra tripped over Beth's leg and fell in the pile of clothing. Beth was laughing. What are you playing this time? Evil Princess versus Singer, Kate chimed. Oh, that's one of your favorites. The two sisters got up and continued playing.
What started to make Beth mad was one of the pillows knocked over her cup of tea on her math papers. Beth understood it was an accident and told them to be a little more careful. A little later, it happened again. Now Beth was a little irritated. The two of them felt awful, so they said they'd give her a makeover to make it up to her. Beth agreed, sounding not as mad. Tahra and Kate worked together to make Beth look like a clown. When Beth saw it, she nearly screamed. The girls ran out of the room laughing. They quickly hid, seeing Beth had too much work to do and no time for a joke. They were little when that had happened, so they didn't know how important it was for Beth to get her work done. In the current time, the wind changed and the rain blew in. As the cold drop landed on Tara's wrist, her thoughts were cut. She leaned forward and closed her homemade door. It made a drastic difference in the lighting, and it appeared very dim inside her stick shelter. It took several minutes for her eyes to readjust to the new light. Once they did, she simply listened to the rain coming down. The same moment, Nick put his bike in a bike rack outside Kate's favorite restaurant, and she put hers aside of her dad's. Then he locked them up and they headed inside. They took a seat at a booth in the far corner. "Did you have fun today, Kate?" inquired Nick, starting off the conversation. "Yes, a ton. Thanks so much, Dad. It definitely reset my mind," answered Kate. "You're welcome. I had today planned out since your mom had told us she had absolutely had to go to New York." "If Tahra had come, we would have done it with her," replied Nick. "I wonder where she went," responded his youngest daughter, sadly changing the focus of the conversation. "I don't know. It was Monday after school. You said she went in her room to write a song, then you came back and she was gone?" Nick questioned, making sure there was absolutely nothing else that had happened in between. Kate nodded, and so he continued on. "I know Tahra would never run away, and people don't just vanish in thin air, even though it seems she did. Besides, if she ran away, we would have found her that night. She wouldn't have gotten that far, especially since she didn't take Crystal," added Kate. "Do you think I'm the cause of this? Like maybe I said something that made her upset?" "Kate, you two are best friends. There's no way she would disappear for something like that. She would have said something to you. If anything, it was something I did," responded Nick to reassure his daughter. "No, Dad, I'm sure if it wasn't me, that it wasn't your fault either." "Maybe she got kidnapped, and then we'll never find her," exclaimed Kate, making herself panic more. "We've lived on the Smoky Mountains for years. No one except us lived there, and our one neighbor, Miss Sarah. Who in the world would kidnap her? It would make no sense, and they would have had to take her out the window. Tahra would have said something or made a sound. She couldn't have gotten lost on the mountains, for she knows them as well as she knows her name. It makes no sense of why she disappeared and we can't find her anywhere. I know we searched practically everywhere." The waiter came over with their food, ending the subject. By now on the road, Beth was past the town and hit rush hour traffic. Earlier, she would have been complaining, but that restaurant left her happy with her spirits bright. Besides, it was rush hour, so traffic was expected, and the other lane heading south was much more jammed. Now, instead of seeing the negative everywhere, Beth was finding the good in every situation. She was finally enjoying the lake. A sigh escaped her for the first time all day, a content one with no trace of sadness. Back at the Sia paper, Tahra lay down on the soft green woven bed in her shelter. She closed her eyes, focusing on the melody the raindrops played as they danced their way down from the sky. It wasn't long before the melody put her to sleep and a dream filled her eyes. Tahra and Kate were running through a grassy green meadow with flowers scattered all over. Around the meadow was the forest of the mountains. At the edge of the meadow stood a deer and her fawn. Above the trees, the birds were singing their cheerful tunes. Baby birds were calling to their mothers, wanting food. Butterflies were flying around. Bees were buzzing as they moved from flower to flower. A loud, thunderous boom awoke Tahra. She saw a flash of lightning streak the sky. Then thunder roared again. Tahra knew being under trees during a thunderstorm was dangerous, but she felt safe in her shelter. She knew the wonderful rhythmic sound that had put her to sleep was lost, and it would take her a while to fall back asleep. At the same moment, Nick and Kate finished eating. They went outside and got on their bikes. Then they headed for their home. By the time they would get back, it would be around 7 o'clock, time to look for Tahra. Hopefully, with their minds reset, they would be able to find her, or else their efforts were all for nothing. The sun was climbing lower in the sky as the minutes passed. Beth watched the sky turn to pink as she sat in traffic. Beth still didn't care. She was stuck in traffic and was enjoying watching the sun paint a picture across the violet sky. She had turned her music off to give it a break for a while, but she really enjoyed her new soundtrack. Then in the sunset, she thought she saw the clouds form the outline of an angel, more specifically Ava. Softly she sighed, believing it was indeed Ava and that she was looking over her and her family. A slight grin pulled on her lips, and she forced herself not to think of anything bad, but to cherish the glorious sunset. Meanwhile, Kate and Nick were glad to be back on the mountains where the ball of fire wasn't blinding them. "Hey, Dad, let's have a race home," suggested the anxious child eagerly. "Okay," agreed Nick, coming to a halt. He aligned his bike up with Kate's. "I'll give you a 30-second head start, since my tires are bigger and I can go faster." "That's fine, but a pro like me won't need a head start." She took off at the speed of light. Nick waited a little and then took off after her. He decided to tease Kate by acting as though he was not going to win, then speed to the finish, because then she would never see it coming. It was the perfect plan. At the same time, a loud boom echoed around the sky. Through the darkness, Tahra could see flashes of lightning. A low rumble started up and was getting a little louder. Then all of a sudden, an ear-bursting crack was released. Tahra remembered how her mother had calmed her and how she had calmed Kate when the thunder had frightened them as little children. Boom! Kate ran upstairs and hid under her bed. "Kate, are you scared of the thunder?" sobbed Tahra, joining her sister in her room. "Yes, it's so fierce," replied little Kate in a shaky voice. "I used to be scared too, but I'm not anymore because Mom told me something." "What did she tell you?" "I'll tell you only if you come out from under the bed." Kate climbed out from under the bed and sat on top, with Tahra shaking slightly less. "Mom told me to picture thunder as a stampede of horses, and lightning is the light reflecting on their long, flowing manes." The thunder roared again, breaking her memories and bringing her back to the present. Tahra loved letting her mind wander back home, and it did comfort her, but when she returned to the present, she always felt sad. She longed to be home, but she had to admit she was having fun here. Now it seemed like nothing fun was left to do, but surely there had to be. The sky was streaked with pink, purple, and a golden yellow. The sun inched lower in the sky. Now it was hiding behind a cloud, sparing all the eyes below that were desperate to gaze up at its colors it created. The bright yellow glow could still be seen through the clouds. The cars were still sitting dead. Just then, a clock changed to 7:04. The light began to flow back into the metal objects. Beth was glad to be out of rush hour traffic for the day, and possibly the last traffic jam for this insane Saturday. Back on the mountain's path, Nick reached the dirt road that led to their house. Nick used all his strength to gain a lot of speed. He was nearing Kate, but it was too late. She got to the house. "I won! Now I am totally a pro at everything," stated Kate, almost bragging, but still only teasing. Nick smiled. "I hope that means you had fun today." "Of course I did. The most fun I had in days," Kate answered. "I'm glad to hear that. Today was supposed to be a fun, relaxing day, so that way we could open up our minds and really focus on where Tahra disappeared to." "That was a good idea. I hope it worked and we can think more clearly on the situation," replied Kate with determination to find her dear sister. "I hope so too." The two of them walked into the stable. The horses greeted them with a cheerful neigh. Kate groomed Lily and Nick started taking care of Moonlight. Once the horses were groomed, they saddled them up. Nick unlocked the door of Crystal and Scarlet. Nick decided to follow the trail Miss Sarah had been taking and took her highlighted map too. Fortunately, she had remembered to leave it there to help the Strongs out. Meanwhile, the thunder was getting quieter and more distant. Tahra figured that meant the storm was leaving the peaceful island. The relaxing sound of the drizzle returned once more. Tahra yawned and stretched as the calm melody made her tired once more. She lied down on her vine-weaved pillow stuffed with leaves. The first night there, it had not seemed comfy, but now it was not quite as bad. Falling asleep was so much easier with the faint sound of the rain as compared to dead silence, and so the quiet cherished nature's form of a lullaby. While that was going on, Kate was trotting on a trail at a steady pace with Crystal aside of them. All of a sudden, Lily misplaced her hoof and tripped on a rock, which caused her to slip. Lily gently put her front hoof down, but quickly pulled it up. Kate jumped off at Lily. "Crystal, go get my dad, and hurry, it's 7:30 and the vet closes at 8 o'clock, ordered Kate frantically. "Sit down, Lily, and rest." The vet will make sure your hoof is all right, and it's nothing too severe." She spoke calmer than a minute ago. Lily could sense that Kate was worried, so she nudged her with her muzzle to say, "Stop worrying, I'm fine." She smiled as she relaxed and let go of her worries as best as she could. While all of this was happening on the road, a bright orange sign read, "Next quarter of a mile, the 2 lanes merge to 1. Along the road were orange barrels." Beth knew she had entered a construction area, but that didn't bother her this time. It was almost kind of nice in a way. She could get a break and have a chance to look around at the scenery a little more. Most of the drive was entirely highway and not all scenic, but this part was, so she was thankful to be going slow. The hills and trees stood strong on the landscape and slowly lost their colors as they became more of shadows with the fading of the light. At that same moment, Nick along with the vet came racing towards Kate and Lily, fearing it was really bad. The vet examined Lily closely. "Will she be okay?" implored the anxious and worried child. "Yes, she only twisted her hoof," responded the vet reassuringly with his overly calm voice. "For now, though, it would be best to rest it. She can walk on it, but shouldn't put her normal amount of weight on it. In other words, it probably would be best if she limped back to the stables. She'll be fine and ready to ride again tomorrow after a good night's rest. If you can, have her rest as she is now, sitting down instead of standing." Kate was relieved that Lily was fine, and she could tell that Crystal was too. She turned towards Lily and grabbed the reins. Back at the stable, Kate had begun to unsaddle Lily, and Nick was unsaddling Moonlight. "Tonight is going to be chilly, so you should put a blanket on Lily and Crystal. I will put one on Moonlight and Scarlet," explained Nick informally. Kate nodded as she took the black blanket off of the shelf. She wrapped the blanket on Lily and made sure it was fully on. Then Lily lied down, careful not to hurt her hoof as the vet had suggested. After Lily was settled in, Kate went out of the stall and into Crystal's. She put Crystal's blanket on her and walked through the exit of the stable. Kate then joined Nick, who was sitting on the sunset bench. There was no sunset to watch, though, for it was now twilight. Above, Kate observed the first star out. In her head, she made her wish. "I wish for Tahra to return home and soon and be safe." All she could do was hope the little star heard her wish and granted it for her. Tonight was going to be chilly, and poor Tahra was alone somewhere, probably trying so hard to figure out how to get home, which really bothered Kate. While all of this was happening, Beth managed to get out of the construction. As dusk fell, Beth realized the whole day has felt more like 1,000 years. She felt as though she would never get to New York City. She could hardly tell if she were only driving up the coast or if she was traveling to the western coast. Maybe she was headed to California or someplace on the other side of the world. Either way, it most certainly did not feel like she was only headed up to New York, so her patience was running out more and more with each passing hour. At the same time, Tahra was fast asleep. Even if another thunderstorm started, it probably wouldn't wake her up. The clouds were clearing away, and the stars were beginning to light up the beautiful night sky. Tahra slept soundly without interruptions from her surroundings, but it would have been nice to have crickets or other night creatures sing her a nighttime lullaby. At least the rain helped earlier, and now she was asleep she of course couldn't notice the melody was gone. There was still the very delicate music of the wind chimes, though, in the distance, ringing that floated into the shelter. Back in the mountains, Kate and Nick were still sitting outside. "Tomorrow we will spend all day looking for Tahra," promised Nick. Kate smiled faintly and nodded slowly. He could tell she was exhausted from a long, fun, and busy day. "I guess we better get to bed," suggested Nick. "Yes, I am very tired," agreed Kate. Meanwhile, Beth crossed the border into Pennsylvania. Beth was glad to know she only had to go through Pennsylvania, then into New York. With that good news, it was still a 6-hour drive before she had reached her destination of New York City, but knew eventually she would. At least now it was starting to seem more like she would. An hour later, at 9 o'clock, Beth decided to find a hotel for the night. She turned off the main road and headed into a nearby town. Beth entered the Paradise Hotel and was still wearing the clothing from dinner, since she had not gotten a chance to change back yet. "Well, you look absolutely gorgeous and seem exhausted, you poor thing," said the lady at the counter. "Thank you, and I am. I've had quite a long day of traveling," replied Beth, tired. "You're very welcome, and we have the perfect room for you. It is said this room is the perfect place for a person as worn out as you. That is very kind of you to offer, but I will be fine staying in a small, cheap room if I may. I understand, but this room costs no different, and you could really use it. The mattress in the bed is better quality than the rest of our standard rooms, and it has a bit more color to the walls. Trust me, you will not regret staying in it. Please allow me to take you to it. The hostess walked Beth to the end of the hallway and then climbed in an elevator. On the third floor, it stopped, and she led Beth onwards towards a set of rooms. Then she paused in front of the one. Here you are, informed the hostess as she opened a pale yellow door. The room was bigger than the standard hotel room and very elegant looking. It was almost like a mini castle chamber. Beth guessed this hotel was probably a 5-star, and she knew it definitely matched its name, Paradise. Thank you, it is lovely, responded Beth, nearly breathless. Of course, our best for the best, said the hostess, reciting their motto. Beth took a minute to get settled in. All her fears rushed to her mind again, and she was desperate to hear the news of Tahra. Fortunately, the hotel had a phone in her room. Trembling, she dialed her home number and waited as it rang. She twisted the cord around her fingers anxiously. Please, Nick, pick up the phone, or Kate. Please, somebody, Beth pleaded aloud. Her heart was racing as she waited for it ring after ring. The receiver went to voicemail, and Beth stated fretfully, Nick, Kate, please pick up if you're there. Have you brought my angel home? Please, do you know any more of the situation? Please, I don't know when I will get the chance to call you next. I'm in a hotel right now, but the machine cut her off. Beth sighed heavily and tried to reassure herself everything was all right. She called again and again, but no answer ever came. Finally, she gave up and forced it out of her mind. Terrified, tears poured from her eyes and shook her entire body. The flood she thought would likely never end. She hated the bad memories it made surface. Knowing she had to get rest, she forced herself to stand up. Then she plopped down on the soft, comfy bed. The mattress was so comfortable, and Beth was that tired she was out in a minute, and her tears dried upon her cheek.